Welcome back to the #1 rated sales podcast on the whole globe. Shut the hell up and sell. Maybe we're not rated quite #1 on Apple and Spotify yet, but I'm going to speak it into damn existence. That's what I'm doing. #1, let's go. Thank you to all of you that have been listening to the podcast, been watching it on YouTube, watching it on Spotify, watching it on our website. I appreciate your support. It's been a fantastic journey in getting this book out and helping to spread the message of saying less to sell more, really being intentional about how we develop our customer relationships and building advocates for our brands and our companies and yourselves as sellers. So thank you for your support. Enough of me talking. It's time to get into this week's guest. This guy is an actual professor of sales. This is our first academic on the now. I mean, I'm kind of like a dime store academic, kind of like, the street pharmacist of sales. This cat is like the literal academic. So I want to welcome Marlon Addison into the podcast today. Marlon, what's going on? All right, Marlon. So now you are telling me what it is you do.
Yeah. So you touched on it earlier. So I am a professor of sales at William Patterson University of New Jersey. We'll talk a little bit about, I had Ronell come in as well, double R as I affectionately call him, and he did an AMA and asked me anything for my class. So we'll touch on that hopefully. But I'm a professor of sales leadership, also of emotional intelligence and sales negotiation. So that's what I do primarily. Corporately, I've done sales pretty much the bulk of my career. You name it in sales, I've done it. But I do like teaching more the professor route and more academia at this stage in my life. So that's where I am.
You touched on something which, I mean, I have a format, so I'm going to stick to the format. But you said something that was super powerful. You said emotional intelligence, because, as on this podcast, we've talked a little bit with other leaders about like sales training and sales curriculum. And that's what I've been saying is like missing from one of the things that's missing from. I love the fact that the institutions of higher learning are taking an interest in more in sales and entrepreneurship and creating courses and everything. But like that EQ, that sort of that part has been missing from the curriculum. And it's hard to teach, right? We learned a lot of this stuff because we were mentored by someone that we worked with, a boss or a peer or something like that. So that's super interesting to me, that is part of what you're teaching as a professor. And I hope we can get into that a little bit. But before we do, I want to know where it started for you. What's the first sales gig that you had? Tell me when it was, where it was, all of that. I want to know.
So it's actually, it's going to sound kind of counterintuitive, but two. I'll give you one from, my early teenage years, 13, 14. And we used to work at a parish. It was called Sacred Heart. So it was a local school and actually a parish. So we were very close to the nuns there. And, every weekend they had bingo, right? So it was packed. So my first sales job was talking my way in there to be a waiter, right? I waited on, all the folks in there, full of smoke. That's when you could smoke, right? It was just packed, like white clouds of smoke. And, I had my little platter and they would just order chips and soda. But I eased my way in there because I was already connected with the nunnery, because my dad and my mom are both pastors. So I did some service for them. So I had a connection that way, but also just in getting to know them, emotional intelligence, which I didn't know it then. I was young, but just leaning into them and listening to them, right? And not to use it with the nun, but shutting the hell up, right? Even as I was a youth and listening, I was able to get that gig. So I was waiting on tables, making like 50, 60 bucks a day. And back then, the 80s, that was all right. That was all right. So that was the first bug. And then secondarily was my first gig out of college. Okay. So I went, and I'm going to take some of your listeners way back. I don't know if they've ever heard certain parts of the country for sure. So this predates Home Depot, predates Lowe's. It's a store called Rickles, right? Rickles Tools. Do it better with Rickles. That was the thing.
Oh, you got the jingle and everything.
That was a jingle. That was a jingle. So my first gig there was selling carpet, tiles, sundries, all the things that went with the tiles and the carpeting, whether it was thresholds, glue, tape, all of those things. And we got commissioned for that. And I realized at an early age, even then in retail, I was. So I worked long hours, how to connect with people, even in emotional intelligence. But that was my adult real sales job right out of college.
Okay, let's put some years to that because we embrace that around here. This isn't like talking about our age and people are like, well, I don't I'm comfortable saying. I know we embrace it. We embrace the amount of years that we have in the game because I look at it like, a lot of the sales profession is like it's a kind of master apprenticeship sort of model, right? And so like, in those sorts of models, when you have the master baker or cobbler, I always use cobbler, I don't know why, the master cobbler, they're not like, oh well, shying away from the amount of years they have, because the more years they have in the game, like that's
Right.
something to be proud of.
It's a
So I encourage that on this platform. We put a number to it. So tell me, how many years?
How many years? She's not counting the 13. I'll leave that out. So 25.
25. I love it. I love it. You unfortunately you don't win the prize because the prize Sander Bean was like 30. So we haven't passed him yet. But you're right up there.
That's right.
You're right.
I'm catching.
So congratulations on that, bro. I really want us to, again, embrace that and embrace our years in the game because, as you know, so much of education and again, moving our profession forward comes from these experienced folks like you coaching and mentoring and teaching. So this leads me to my next question, the coaching, the mentoring part, right? So you're where you're at today, 25 years in the game.
Yeah.
Because at some point, someone gave you some coaching, someone mentored you, someone was there for you. That's how our profession has continued to evolve and continue to be there for every generation, is because these best practices get passed on. And so this is your opportunity to now shout out an unsung hero in your journey. Now, this could be someone that played a big role, played a little role, but an impactful role that helped you to formulate your philosophy on how to sell, much like my story of the gold watch in my book, right? That gentleman, I spent 15 minutes with him. It's impacted the rest of my life. So I want you to shout out an unsung hero.
Sheesh, man, 25 years, you're going to get me in trouble.
Well, here's the thing. Somebody got to get left out. It is what it is. Sometimes I ask this question and cats will be like reading, they want to read like an end of the movie credits sort of situation. It's like, okay, The Grip, Teddy Johnson, lighting, Shannon. Like, no, bro, I know there's lots of people. I get it. We're just going to get one. And and someone that deserves a shout out, and maybe they don't even know. Maybe it was a little thing, maybe it was a big thing, but it helped you to formulate your philosophy.
No, I have the person, right? It's persons, but I'll stick to one. It's kind of like and I don't know if you're going to touch on it later, but Double R and I are real hip hop heads. I love hip hop, so it's kind of like asking me my top 5, right? It gets difficult.
Oh yeah,
it can change over time. So, So I'll say this first. I'll liken it because you said baker and cobbler, right? So we're this is a shut up and sell podcast, right? So I'm going to go baker because you referenced it in your book, and I love how you said some people may follow the recipe and bake, but others may actually like mill it, right? Knead that dough, right? And this is what that mentor did for me. So I'm going to stick with your baker analogy.
Okay.
So his name is affectionately called Boom, Boom, like dynamite.
Okay.
Rushdan is his name. So he's actually a mentor of mine. He spent 40 years connected to the military, the Army, and lived at least 30, if not more, overseas, Germany and other places. So he impacted me because and this is going back over 20 years to present, because he noticed when I was younger, I was an observer. So he was observing me, and he knew he was going to handpick me to help mentor me. And I didn't know it yet. That was the first phase of it. And then secondarily, as we got more and more connected, he just started sharing stuff with me, and how he shared them was fantastic. I still have my notes. I got my notes from 20 years ago. I got notes from now, and I told him I'm gonna write a book. Right, it's going to say dealing with the marksman rush Dan. So he helped me focus and zero in on philosophies, and you talked about this too, right? Philosophies and fundamentals in your book. There's a lot of stuff in between, but what's your base, right? Your baseline. So here's how I'm going to bring it home. I'm going to give you two examples, and hopefully this makes sense, right? For boom. So there are concentric circles, right? Circles within each other, right? So the radius may change, and this is a little bit of academia, so stay with me. The radius may change, but the center point and the midpoint does not, right? They do not change. If that changes, it's not a true concentric circle, right? So when you think about concentric circles, think about a roulette table, a dartboard, right? So I can give you some more visualization. And when you're selling, and this is something he taught me as well, right? You're going for the bullseye. Sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't, but you're always on the board, right? It's like cornhole. You may not get it in the hole, but you're always on the board. So I love that, right? Even if you miss and hit the wall, it's still there. It doesn't change. The value proposition for you and the client, that bullseye does not change. You may miss the mark, but that bullseye doesn't change, right? So that's concentric. Now we're going to go still academia. Stay with me, to a Venn diagram. V as in Victor, E, N as in Nancy, Venn. So this is another circle, right? These circles can be interlocking or separate. And the purpose of this diagram is to show commonalities or distinction. So another thing he showed me was, right, we can have domains, and that's a key word. What's your domain, Ronell? Internet, education, finance, right? That's the Venn diagram, those circles, right? So I'm good in education, I'm good in finance, right? So you may see that shade in there. They're going to connect, right? They're going to interlock. But some are going to be distinct, because you may say, you know what, I'm really good in education, but banking, not so much. So it's not going to be interlocking. So the key is knowing what your domain is, right? Knowing where you're good at, right? Knowing where you shine, and you may have some other pieces that interlock. Like, I'm not a superstar there, but I can do that, right? And then concentric, you're trying to hit that bullseye. So this brings it home, and this goes to your book, right? Listen to what you're complimented on the most. Listen to how you make those impacts, right? And in order to listen, you got to shut the hell up and sell. So that's how you do it. So Boom taught me that, and much, much more. He has a ton of anecdotes and how he schools me and how we meet and how we chop it up. I get so much from him, even in 10, 15 minutes. If it's an hour, like, mind blown. So I'll pause there, but I just want to kind of bring it home, especially from an academic standpoint.
I love it. I'm going to bring it home, though. Boom! I wanted to do that. When you said his nickname was Boom, I couldn't wait to say it. That's what's up. So shout out to Boom and the impact that he's made in you, and which has allowed you to be able to make such a tremendous impact in all of these folks that now that you're teaching, coaching, and leading, and have throughout your career. And that's what it's about paying it forward. So I'm going to go off script a little bit, because you already made mention of hip hop, and you talked about, you're like, listen, it's hard. It's kind of like Mount Rushmore of hip hop. Okay. Right. So who's your Mount Rushmore?
Oh, dude. All right, so Jersey, because that's where I'm from, and he's one of the best, and people are starting to realize it more now, but I've been Redman, right?
Okay.
So gotta have Redman in there.
That's definitely a home team pick.
Yeah.
That's definitely a home team pick, Redman. But okay.
But no, he's in there for life. Like, when people watch this,
I know, but it's a home team pick for you. Like this, there's a special, there's that emotional connection there.
It is. Black Thought.
Okay.
Shoot. Redman, Black Thought. It's changed as of late. Common.
Okay.
Well, because I'm more conscious. Nas.
Okay. That's 4.
Yeah. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to know why I respect your hip hop headedness and your answer? Because here's the thing, mine are different. But here's what you didn't say. You didn't give me the lazy answer. The lazy, and I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone, but I'm just telling you, like, we're hip hop
Big
generation kids, so
Pac,
like we've
right?
been so the lazy answer is Big and Pac. Here's
Mhm.
why, people. Here's why. Hear me out on this.
Right, right.
Because they got martyred, and once you're martyred, there is an unrealistic, like, just it's the best way to put this. I'll put it to you this way. Here's my way that I like to explain it. Take your favorite rapper, not your favorite. I'm gonna give you three.
Okay,
I'm gonna give you DMX. I'm
okay,
gonna give you Busta Rhymes.
okay.
I'm gonna give you I don't know. I'll throw Jay-Z in the mix there. Those rappers sold more than anyone in history at a certain period of time.
Yep.
I want you to think about DMX, like his first three albums, multi-platinum. And if I remember correctly, again, sold more than anyone in history, and everybody was feeling him.
Yep.
If DMX had met an untimely end 2 years, 3 years into his career, he's two albums out, three albums out. Everyone's talking about him like we talk about Big and Pac or Busta Rhymes, guys like that.
Right.
But the reason that we don't is because they had to stand the test of time. They had to go through awkward phases like a
Yep.
child. They had to go through awkward phases. They had to go through making a bad album here and there. They had to go through a messy things in the public and all the public eye that changed their perception. They had to go through all of that stuff. When you get martyred, like the 28 Club, we're talking about Kurt Cobain, we're talking about Janis Joplin and things, all these artists like Jimi Hendrix, like it's like done right there. You've got like 4 or 5 years of your life and career that was a really good run that now is being measured against people's lifetime. So like when you put them, I'm not saying that they weren't impactful. Absolutely they were. I'm not saying that they weren't great artists. Absolutely they were. But to me, the Mount Rushmore, these are the GOATs. Like they had to stand the test of time. And that, my friend, is why Jay-Z has to be on the list. Jay-Z has to be on the list. I mean,
I'm sorry. And I respect it. Don't get it twisted, but he's not. I'll push back further because I know we go hip hop. We don't have to get too down the line. My honorable mention right now will be Guru, right? Gifted Universal Rhymes Unlimited.
So I think that where we're missing right now, Marlon, where we're missing is in the qualifications for GOAT. Because to me, I think it has to check multiple boxes. You are backpacker digging through the crates guy, and so you are heavy on lyrical content, which I'm heavy on lyrical content too. But there's this whole thing called like relevancy and the business end of it and all that. So that's why for me, that guy, nobody's done it like he's done it. It's kind of like Tom Brady. Like Tom Brady is absolutely not the most talented quarterback of all time. Not even close. But he is the GOAT because he's done it at a certain level longer than anyone has ever done it. All right. So I'm done. All right, guys. I'm trying to sell. See, this is salesmanship. I hope you guys are picking this up. See, I'm making my case so that I can try to sway Marlon. I'll let y'all know later whether I was successful in that. We'll do a follow-up. All right, my friend, it's back to you. It's storytelling time.
Yep.
So, in the book, we tell stories. Yep. I tell stories. I always say that. I tell stories from my career, and these are stories that help me to formulate the philosophy that I have on business and sales. And we do that in a way to better teach people how to execute properly. So I'd like you to share a story from your career. Tell me about an experience, good, bad, whatever, that that impacted you in a way to help formulate your philosophy.
Okay, so my management style is such. I'm more. I embrace change, but I also embrace improving my team as a whole and individually. So I'm hands-on from the perspective of what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? How can I help you get there? My goal is to ultimately get you out of my shop. If you want to stay, that's fantastic, but I want you to succeed. 95% of my team, and that's not just a random number, it's an actual number, went on to become either senior account managers, directors, senior managers, and above, all from my team. So I pride myself on that. So I preface my statement with that because there was a meeting. We do all types of meeting, and I was in insurance, and so we have open enrollment meetings, right, where we go through, and sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. I handle the national accounts, public, mid-size, all across the board. This particular group, really large on the national end, and my account managers who were supposed to handle the meeting had a conflict. So I stepped in. And so what that did for the group and for me was let them recognize just because I was a senior leader doesn't mean I can't come to the open enrollment meeting and assist you, answer your questions, and it be seamless for you because it's about you, not me. I want to make sure we retain you. I want to make sure you have what you need. So I came down there and the meeting went flawlessly. And I'm not saying it because it's me, but what happened was the audience was more blue collar. So we had a good time, rolled up the sleeves, literally took off the suit jacket, got to listen to them, got to know them a little better. And we were just having a grand old time by the time it was done. And several of them came up to me after and said, you know what? I've never had this much fun at an open enrollment meeting. And I said, it should be fun for you while learning, right? You should be here, know where to get your information, know who to contact. And then from that, the CEO of that company reached out to my senior vice president and raved about it. And I did the next 2, 3 years for their meetings. I didn't have to because I had a team, but they requested me. So I said, no problem. I can do it and we can knock it out. So we developed a better relationship there. And they saw that, they sent somebody, senior leadership, to take care of it, not someone else. So they were very impressed by that and blown away. And it turned into a long lasting relationship.
Mm. So what do you think the most valuable lesson is from that someone can take from that experience?
So two things. One, and I know we've all seen this in our career. You at a certain level when you say, I'm not going to do certain meetings, I'm not going to do certain things. So I took that lesson away that I'm not going to be that guy. Like if you need assistance, I'm here for you. We're at this company, and the bottom line doesn't matter what our position is. The ultimate goal of our company is keeping those clients and paying claims, right? At the end of the day, we have all departments, law, IT, all that jazz, but we pay claims. That was the end of the day what we did as an insurance company, right? So that was one. And then the second thing was relationship. I mean, we hear that networking all the time. I hate it now from a buzzword perspective, but it was a true working relationship. And I've actually had, lunch with the person, dinner with them, and just we connected. We had a good time be outside of work. So building that relationship is key.
Love it. Service is what I'm hearing. You said you hate that buzzword relationship. I am kind of over it too, in the sense, in a sales standpoint, because everyone says the same thing.
Right.
Everyone says that, it's all about relationship selling. It's all about, caring about your customer. I had a great meeting the other day with a friend who was interviewing me, and it's one of the things we talked about was like how everyone everyone says that they care about their customer,
Right.
care about their prospect, right? They do. But I said I call bullshit on it because we care about them from the lens of our product or service. And I'm
Right.
not saying, and before I say this, I'm not on some altruistic, save the world type stuff.
Right. Right.
The stuff that I'm sharing is about doing good business and good salesmanship. But when I say we care about them, like going out, taking people out for beers and sending them some bullshit or whatever, like that doesn't really show me that you care about me. What shows me that you care about me is that you take the time to understand what matters the most to me in my business, in my world, what's going, and divorce yourself from your product or service. That's where I think so many go wrong, is that when they're having those conversations and they're sitting down and say, Marlon, what do you care? What's going on? They're not asking those questions from a position of really trying to understand what's going on in their world. We're asking them with our product and our service at the forefront of it. So that is always like what it's about. And what we talk about in the book is like, listen, when I sit down with you and if I'm really wanting to build a relationship, I'm really trying to do great business long-term. I want to understand what matters most to you. I'm gonna sit down and do discovery and talk to you about things that are unrelated to what it is that I'm selling, so I can get to what you actually care about. Right. So anyway, I love that story. That was great. This is another part I've been looking forward to, Marlon. Oh, go. You want to add something?
Yeah, because we're talking about shut the hell up and sell. So I'll add, when you read the book, just make note. Rynell specifically states that, right? Before you do all this win-win and sell, you can ask questions at discovery. Your job is to listen first and get there. So he does note that out. This is not just hearsay. So read the book and you'll figure that out. But go ahead.
Yes, sir. And guys, don't forget to go to the end of the book. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, what book? Or I haven't got a book, what the hell are you doing? There's a book. This is all based on a book. Go get the book. It's on Amazon. It's waiting for you. I have reserved a copy of it for each and every single one of you that are listening to it. I promise you, if you go to Amazon, it will never, ever say it's sold out, because it is always there for you.
That's right.
All right. This next part. I've been looking forward to this because you're the academic, and so I know you'll get this more than most. So this next part, I want to ask you for some direction, some advice.
Mm-hmm.
You gave some early on when you shared your story about Boom. That was really impactful, I thought. But I want to make sure just that we keep in the spirit of the book, which is, hey, look, let's teach philosophy. Then let's teach simple, practical, pragmatic execution tactics, things that people can, because there's so much in sales. It's either like super technical, right? Like a textbook, or it's like highly theoretical, right? And I think that it's not that complicated. Philosophy and then simple fundamental actions. So I'd like to ask you for a piece of your choice, advice, direction, a tactic, something that you think people can take away from this episode and apply to their business immediately and start to see some success.
All right. So it's going to go back to domain that I mentioned earlier, because I think that's key to know where you are. I also recommend personality tests, not a whole bunch, but Myers-Briggs, a DISC, things of that nature, because it gives you a foundation to say, oh, that's why I do that. That's why I operate that way. Or Rynell I thought he was cutting me off. No, that's how he relates. That's how he talks. Let me not do that. So it's this thing called 7-11 rule, right? And the 7-11 rule is we make 11 snap judgments in 7 seconds. I look at Rynell. Okay, I know what he's about. Okay, I see his haircut. I see his suits and ties. I know who he is already. We automatically do that. Most people, if not all, do that. If you recognize it, you can update that and change that. But knowing who you are, take a personality test, right? Myers-Briggs, the 16 personality test is a good one, just to give you a basis, and it'll let you know, like, okay, this is how I relate. This is how I operate. This is my domain. And then what happens is, the analogy I like to use, and I got it from a friend of mine, a pastor friend of mine. I love when he uses it. When we're talking about emotional intelligence, it's like being on a desert island, right? And let's say you're stranded and there's 10 people there. What's your natural bend, your natural twist, right? That's pragmatic. Just think about it this way. I'm going to gather the wood. Great. I'm a builder. Great. I can swim. Okay. Who's going to help build the boat? Things of that nature. What's your natural bend and twist? And that lane will take you wherever you need to go, right? I've stayed in my lane, and I don't mean that to limit myself, but doing what I enjoy, doing what I'm good at, has opened up other lanes for me. But that one was the main source. So again, maybe take a personality test, see where you are, get that standard, know what your domain is, and go from there. Nobody likes when you look at your LinkedIn profile or whatever it is, you're a master of 20 things. No, what are you good at? Like, what are the few things that you zero in on that we can connect with?
Oh, I love that. I love it. And that is a first. That's a first on this podcast. And I'm going to do that because I haven't done that. I think I probably had a personality test maybe over 20 years ago.
Oh wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
you've
like
changed, right? You've evolved.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's certain things that are the same, but like what I'm hearing you say is just something that's core to it's a core success principle, which is know thyself, right? So whether it's sales or anything, just life, relationships, like knowing who you are is going to help you to get further and help you to be more successful. I love that, and especially in this world of sales, and knowing how you communicate.
Right.
It can help you to better communicate with other people. Man, that was fire. Okay.
Them
Wow, I love
screaming
that.
boom, 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 boom.
I don't have any sound effects. That is going to be season 2. We
There
don't.
you go. Bring me
I don't
back
know.
to the
Should we get
sound.
sound effects? We should. You know what? Actually, the plan is yeah, it's season 2. I'm gonna have a DJ. I'm gonna have
Right.
like I'm gonna have like a morning show set up. Like as soon as I get some sponsors come.
After this
Yeah,
episode, they're gonna roll in.
I
All of
think so. I think starting with William Patterson University, huh?
what the heck?
They have a sales program. Huh?
They do.
I know a
Number,
guy.
number
I
one
know.
in New Jersey. It was the first one. First sales
I
from
know a guy that knows some people. Maybe.
yeah.
Marlon, this has been a blast, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me and chop it up. How can people connect with you? How can they get a hold of you? What's the best way?
So I'm primarily on LinkedIn, Marlon Addison, Addison, first name Marlon like Brando. And also on Twitter, which I'm not as active, but Marlon Mentors. And I bring that up because Marlon Mentors is coming out in about 2 or 3 months. I'll let you know the website, and it's going to be some interesting things up there. So
Love it.
primarily emotional intelligence and teaching it corporately, but also at the collegiate level, which is my sweet spot. That's why I go back into knowing who you are. I'm going to focus on some HBCUs as well, but corporately and collegiately, that's my sweet spot.
Okay. I love it. So, y'all make sure go to LinkedIn, connect with Marlon. The link will be in the show notes. If you connect there and you hit his little bell on his profile, you'll get notified when all this other great stuff that he's working on gets rolled out, in the next few months. So, so you can be part of that. And I think that, again, the work that you're doing is fantastic. I love it. I love that you're an academic who is a real salesperson. Okay. So you're teaching sales and you understand the nuance of sales, which, is way different than somebody that just, that learned it and, or, in some sort of academic environment, whether it's a higher,
Right.
a university or a corporate environment or whatever. Like there's lots of corporate trainers out there that teach sales, been teaching sales their whole careers and have never actually sold.
Right, exactly right. Exactly. That's why I wanted to break that mold, and I actually have my Master of Science in Sales Leadership. So, and that was on purpose.
All right, my friend, this has been a pleasure. Thank you again for joining me, and thank you for bringing that crispy lineup and fade and wearing one of the Business and Bourbon shirts. You guys or I'm a Businessman shirts, which you guys can get at Business and Bourbon Live, just so you know.
It's gonna be Nas over Jay-Z, but go
ahead. And if you have a thought on this Mount Rushmore, go to Spotify, leave us a message. I want to know what y'all think. Give me your Mount Rushmore, and I won't shame you if you put Big and Pac on there. It's an opinion, and I get it, and it's just something that we can debate and have fun over. But I will always win the debate. I will always.
Salesperson.
Hey, listen, y'all. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Make sure that you listen to all the previous episodes. Make sure you go get your copy of the book. And go to our website where we're announcing new stuff all the time. We've got courses work coming out. We've got events coming out, and I want you all to be part of that. But until then, remember, if you don't remember anything else from this episode, it was all of this fire, all of this wisdom. Rewind it first. Rewind it and make sure that you that's an old school term. People don't rewind anymore. Right. Say that. I don't know what you say now. Run it back. Run it back. Listen to it again. And then after that, remember this. Say less, sell more. See you next time. Hey guys, it's Ronell, and I just wanted to thank you for listening to this episode of the Shut the Hell Up and Sell podcast. If you liked it, please rate us 5 stars on whichever podcasting platform you're listening to this on. And while you're at it, punch that subscribe button. That way you get notified every time we drop a brand new episode. Hey, I'd also appreciate it if you went to our website, shutthehellupandsell.com, and became a member. It's absolutely free, and you'll have the opportunity to listen to previous episodes of our podcast, check out some of our free courses, get a copy of the book, and we'll send you sales tips and motivational nuggets from time to time. Lastly, if you'd like to book me for either appearances or speaking engagements, just send an email to my team at team@shutthehellupandsell.com.